P Sports presents championship drag racing from the National Hot Rod Association. The 1982 Gatornationals. Brought to you by Goodyear Eagle High Performance Radials, the Racing Eagles Goodyear tamed for the street. And by Meguiar's Car Wax. For over 50 years, Meguiar's quality waxes and polishes have been the choice of car care professionals. And by English Leather. Get an A in English with English Leather, and women will never fail you. Aftershave and cologne for men. The Gatornationals, the largest championship drag racing event in the Southeast. For 13 years, this mecca for high performance, Gainesville Raceway in Gainesville, Florida, has hosted the Gatornationals, worth this year nearly $500,000 in cash and awards. The quarter-mile racetrack was blistered in qualifying, with the entire 16-car top fuel dragster field under the 6-second barrier. And what does an all 5-second field mean? Well, back in 1976, when Diamond P Sports first covered the Gatornationals, only one car was able to record a sub-6-second time. This year, the entire field is in the fives. Off-season Pro Stock rules changes by the National Hot Rod Association have made these cars faster than ever. Larger engines and a lower overall car weight have combined to radically improve the performance of the factory hot rods. Lee Shepard, the defending world champion, qualified number 1, setting new national records in the process. And to give you an idea of the impact those rules changes have made, take a look at the number 1 time last year as compared to the time of the 16th qualifier this year. The assault on the qualifying standards did not lessen with funny cars. World champion Raymond Beadle in the Blue Max ended in the number 1 position with a fine 5.91 second time. And as you can see, the rest of the field was close behind, with the number 16 car just a quarter of a second slower. And Beadle continued to tell the story of Funny Car Eliminator as he came to the line in the first round of competition earlier this afternoon. The experts had classed Beadle as the strong favorite, expecting little trouble from the number 9 qualifier, Al Segrini. And it was then that it happened. With incredible skill, Beadle regained control and drove the car to a stop. The crowd waited to see whether Beadle had been injured. And as he climbed out, untouched, the crowd roared its approval. Raymond Beadle, 3-time world champion, safe and sound. A tribute to his driving skills and the safety of the sport.
First of all, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. It just hurt my feelings worse than anything else.
What happened? We couldn't tell from where I was.
Well, the car went out and it shook a little bit, and it had like a slow drift, and I thought I could bring it around, and it just dug in on the one side, and when it did, it just flipped it. There's nothing I could do.
Well, that's the first time you've been on your head in a long time, maybe ever.
Well, we went on our head once several years ago, but I got to say it was my fault. I stayed with it a little longer. You know, we was trying so hard to win that round. We've slid around before and had no problem, but like I said, it just dug in.
And the car doesn't look that badly damaged.
No, it's all right. I think it rolled once or so.
Okay, I'll let you join your wife, Hawley, because she's obviously concerned as your condition. He's fine.
She's worse than I am.
Raymond Beadle, sometimes I think he has ice water for blood. A cool, calm individual. Let's get out.
The number 1 qualifier, Raymond Beadle, out of competition. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave McClelland, and for the 7th consecutive year, Steve Evans and I are bringing you all the Gatornationals excitement. We'll be right back. The 13th annual NHRA Gatornationals at Gainesville Raceway. A large crowd anxiously awaiting the start of the second round of top fuel eliminations as our Diamond P television camera located in the helicopter circles overhead. That helicopter's been flying most of the day, and early this morning at about 8 o'clock, the huge parking lot was jammed with cars trying to beat the traffic jam. There's somebody else up at 8 o'clock, Steve Evans.
Dave, even though it's hours before the start of final eliminations, the early arrivals here at the Gator Nationals are lined up as far as the eye can see. Our camera crew picked up a ride this morning to the track from one gentleman who didn't mind the traffic jam a bit. He's the president and founder of the National Hot Rod Association, Wally Parks. Now, Wally, these people make an all-day adventure out of the Gators.
It's become a festival. It's an annual thing that they look forward to, and they want to get here early so they don't miss any of the action.
Yeah, you feel the magic of this event throughout this pretty college town of Gainesville. Welcome NHRA, welcome drag racers on all the reader boards. They love you here.
Well, it has become the largest event in the city here. It contributes over $1 million a day, according to the Chamber of Commerce here. So the combination of the economic advantage that it brings in and the fact that it is a very good, clean sports entertainment, I think they like us.
$1 million a day. What about the U.S. Nationals at Indianapolis? It's your biggest race.
Well, that one, according to the Chamber of Commerce in Indianapolis, brings in more money during the Labor Day weekend that we're in there than the Indianapolis 500-mile race does during the entire month of May, and we like that.
Thank you, Steve, and we're anxiously awaiting the start of that second round of Top Fuel elimination as these long, slender machines, known as Top Fuel dragsters, fire up their 2,500 horsepower engines and get ready to streak down this quarter of a mile. The space between the first and the 16th qualifier was less than a quarter of a second, so they were very closely matched in round number 1. And here in round number 2 to start the action is the winningest female motorsports racer of all time, Shirley Muldowney, two-time World Top Fuel champion. She'll be racing Jody Smart. Smart qualified in the number 10 spot with a fine 5.86 second elapsed time. J.E. Christic, the crew chief for Jody Smart, checking with his driver, making sure everything is right on that car before he sends him on the race. Shirley Muldowney approaching the starting line. She is the only person ever to win a Top Fuel World Championship twice. She has gained the respect of all of her peers in drag racing and in all forms of motorsports. She's got to beat Jody Smart to advance into the third round of eliminations. And it is Muldowney off the starting line. First Smart headed towards the center line. He backed out of it. And it is Shirley Muldowney with some engine smoke as she crossed the finish line. The crew checking to make sure she's all right. She is with a fine 5.82 second time. Her speed over 242 miles an hour. Here we see again exactly what happened. You can see Shirley move just perceptibly ahead of Jody Smart. Smart's car making a move to the center line. That's what cost him the race.
In a repeat of the Gator Nationals final round a year ago, Shirley Muldowney again meets Jody Smart, and the results were exactly the same. Shirley Muldowney wins here in the second round. A little smoke out of the motor that time.
What did I turn?
582.
That's pretty good for the way it shook. It shook pretty bad.
Does the tire shake seem to increase as the day goes on?
Yeah, I think it may be the racetrack. I don't think the fellas, made any changes that would make it shake like that, but I don't know. I was able to drive out of it, so I guess it was good enough.
Well, you always have a great race with Jody Smart.
Yeah, he's plenty good, I don't know what to say about Jody.
Okay, the crew is here to get the car back to the pits. They may have to take it apart this time.
Shirley Muldowney once again defeating Jody Smart. Here's Jody coming in to offer his congratulations to Shirley Muldowney. Our next pair of cars, quite a story. And the north wind here in the near lane is Jim Bernard, while on the far lane is Joe Amato. This is Jim Bernard. He was the surprise number 3 qualifier, a great 5.72, but this is the first Top Fuel race ever for Joe Amato, and he made this very tough Gator Nationals field. Formerly racing in Pro Comp Eliminator, where the fuel is limited to alcohol, methanol fuel, he moved up to the ranks of the nitro burners at this Gator Nationals Championship and has acquitted himself very well. In fact, in round number 1, Amato defeated Mark Oswald with a fine 5.82, but from wire to wire, it is Jim Bernard winning this race over Joe Amato. Bernard's time, 5.99 seconds. The speed only 233 miles an hour as a dejected crew for Joe Amato heads down to pick up their race car and bring him back to the pits. Fast-paced action as always at the Gator Nationals as the next pair of Top Fuel dragsters, their engines fired approaching the starting line. Johnny Abbott, the man from Denver, Colorado, will be facing the crowd favorite, without a doubt, the odds-on favorite here at the Gator Nationals. If you listen to the spectators, they'd love to see this man win it. He is the winningest Top Fuel racer of all time, Big Daddy Don Garlits out of Sefner, Florida. He's up against the national champion, Johnny Abbott from Denver, Colorado. Garlits completing his burnouts, heading up towards the starting line. Watching closely as Abbott in the near lane comes up, approaching the light beams across the starting line. As those wheels roll into them, that gives the signal to starter Buster Couch that both cars are ready. Don Garlits off the starting line first, and he extends his lead in the middle of the race course and crosses the finish line with a tremendous run. The crew knows it. They're jumping for joy as they head to the pickup to go get Don Garlits at the end of the track after he's just recorded the quickest elapsed time of eliminations, 5.72 seconds. His speed was over 249 miles an hour. There you see Johnny Abbott losing traction right at the start, and Don Garlits going on to win at over 249.
Well, that knocked the Florida fans right out of the grandstands, as Florida's most famous race driver ever, Big Daddy Don Garlits, comes up with an outstanding 572, 249 miles an hour. A lot of people said this track at this point wouldn't hold anything as quick as a 572, but you again have proved them wrong.
Yeah, we were going the wrong way. Everybody else was too. We decided to do something different.
And?
It picked right up.
What was it?
Well, I ain't gonna
Speed
say.
secrets?
Speed secrets, they'll come right. They can all do it in just about 5 minutes if they knew what it was.
Okay, Big Daddy thinks he's got the trick that'll take to win this. He's won it 3 times before.
And his bag of tricks rather extensive, Steve. For Johnny Abbott, a disappointing loss, and Johnny looks like he's sick. He's having trouble getting out of the car. He has a pained expression on his face that I'm sure comes from more than just losing the race. Crewman coming over to help him off with his fire suit, and Johnny looks physically ill. The temperature here today about 90 degrees, and it can get hot in those fire suits. It is very humid. We'll check on Johnny's condition and find out and report back just as soon as we can. On the starting line, the next pair of cars, the final pair in this second round of Top Fuel Racing is fired. Will match the reigning world champion, Jeb Allen, against this man, Connie Kalita, who qualified number 8. Jeb Allen, the number 12 qualifier in the first round, defeated Gary Beck, who finished number 2, right behind Jeb last year in the world champion points chase. Wife Cindy Allen watching over Jeb as he approaches the starting line to match up against Connie Kalita. This the final race of the second round of Top Fuel Eliminator. The Christmas tree starting device with the lights at the top indicating when the cars are staged and ready. At the bottom of the tree, the green light comes on for both cars. A good start, and it is Connie Kalita pulling away handily to win over Jeb Allen. The time, not outstanding at a 6.15 second, but it really doesn't matter. It's who got to the finish line first, and in this case, it's Connie Kalita. As we watch again, you can see him start to pull away from the very beginning of this quarter-mile run. In the middle of the course, he has a slight lead and then expands it considerably as he heads to the finish line. Connie Kalita, the winner.
His new car working beautifully. Connie Kalita drops Jeb Allen here in round 2, but Connie Don Garlits suddenly looks like the man to beat.
Well, he's hard to beat. I'll tell you, he gets about 2 or 3 shots at that racetrack in the morning like that, and I mean, he can dial it in quick. He's really going to be mean.
He said he just discovered a little speed secret, but he ain't telling.
Yeah, well, he owned 250 7 years ago. He must have forgot it, hadn't he?
Okay, good luck in the semis, Connie Kalita.
Thank you, Steve.
Connie Kalita not worried as he moves into the semifinals to match up against Shirley Muldowney. Don Garlits against Jim Bernard at the Gator Nationals. I'm Dave McClelland, and along with Steve Evans, we're back at Gainesville Raceway for the Gator Nationals. Here's some of the 600 racers that have jammed into this sprawling pit area for this Gator Nationals Championships. Here's a racer that looked just a little bit ill a few moments ago. He's checked in with the emergency medical people, and Johnny Abbott's A-OK. Back in the pits, Steve Evans has caught up with Jeb Allen after his big loss.
Jeb, you were less than happy at the far end of the racetrack after Kalita put you away.
Well, yeah, you know, when you real close race like that, a 6:13 to a 6:15, and if he would have just flat out run me, it would have been great. But you know, when the driver, myself, makes a mistake, it's
And the mistake was what?
the mistake was made on the starting line. He won the race right on the starting line. When we pull into the staging beams and let the clutch out, when the yellow light comes on, we let the clutch out, and that whoever's reaction is quicker at that point, like for him, it paid off today when he won the race.
An obviously disappointed world champion Jeb Allen, but this crowd's not about ready to be disappointed as we get ready to go into the second round of Funny Car Eliminator. These use the same 2,500 horsepower engines that we've been watching in those top-fueled dragsters. The difference? They're covered with a fiberglass body. The matchup will find the Chi-Town Hustler, driven by this man, the number 2 qualifier, Frank Hawley, against Kosti Ivanov, the Boston Shaker out of Brighton, Massachusetts. Ivanov has got his work cut out for him because with the number 1 qualifier, Raymond Beadle, out of the field, this is the only other 5-second car in Funny Car Eliminator today. The Chi-Town Hustler in the far lane with Frank Hawley has been running superbly lately, and it is up in smoke. Kosti Ivanov out of the race as he crosses the center line, and look at the time for Frank Hawley, 5.97 seconds, the quickest time of eliminations thus far. Kosti Ivanov disappointed, coasting across the finish line. As we watch again, you'll see exactly what happens. He loses traction right there. Ivanov, the car now starting to go out of control. He tries to regain it, he cannot, crosses the center line, and Hawley the winner.
This is the second NHRA national event of the season, and for the second time, the Chi-Town Hustler and young Canadian driver Frank Hawley go into the semifinals. Would you believe it, a 5.97 in this heat on this track?
I'm impressed because I had to lift a little bit out there. I saw Kosti come up by me. I think he left on me again. I'm just glad that Austin's motors are so fast.
Frank Hawley obviously pleased with the work of his crew chief, Austin Coyle. Our next pair of funny cars completing their burnout, here we see John Force. He was the number 16 qualifier, just made it into the show with a 6.17 elapsed time. Number 12 was Billy Meyer from Waco, Texas. He's never driven another car down a drag strip except a nitro-burning funny car. Meyer and Force here in the second round of funny car racing at the Gator Nationals. The crew for Billy Meyer cleaning the racetrack of possibly a little debris or moisture, as both cars having completed their pre-racing burnout procedures, and it is John Force off the starting line first, and something goes wrong with Billy Meyer, and it is Force with an easy win. From the number 16 spot, John Force has just moved into the semifinals. His crew pleased with the work thus far, 6.43 seconds at only 230 miles an hour. He'll have to improve the performance a bit as he moves up into the semis, as we've already seen a 5.97 by Frank Hawley. The burnout designed to heat up the tires on Paul Smith's car. That's in the near lane. He's up against Al Segrini. Remember, he qualified number 9, had to race the number 1 qualifier. He won as Raymond Beadle crashed in round number 1. Paul Smith from Delray Beach, Florida, a crowd favorite, will be up against Al Segrini. Segrini in the far lane. Smith in the near lane. Again, from Florida, Smith, obviously the crowd favorite, as all eyes riveted on the starting line of this quarter-mile racing surface, as two of the finest funny cars in the country do battle here at the Gator Nationals. And it is Paul Smith, as something goes wrong with Segrini, and another easy win in this round, this time to Paul Smith. And you talk about a crew that's showing some happiness. How about this one? Paul Smith, 6.27. And they are wanting all of the accolades of the crowd, the Florida fans, giving their best for Delray Beach, Paul Smith. Tim Gross sitting behind that 2,500 horsepower engine as his crewman takes off the starter. Actually, the starter drives the supercharger, and that in turn turns the engine over and starts the motor. Let's go to Steve Evans with Paul Smith.
Paul Smith, who came to the Gator Nationals, was probably the shortest part supply of anybody. In fact, he only made one qualifying run clear back Thursday trying to conserve, and you're going to have a pretty good payday here.
I hope so. I tell you what, the last run we heard 8 pistons. We had to put 8 pistons in it, sleeves, and the fuel pump. Last run, and almost crossed the center line. I had to lift to get back in it, like the Blue Max tried to do, but he didn't, quite. You get it done is good, I guess.
You got a little bit of a break because you didn't have lane choice, and apparently Segrini broke.
Yeah, well, I guess he did. I don't know what happened. Nobody told me nothing yet.
Just drive your own race, right?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so for Paul Smith, a happy crew as they get ready for the semifinals.
Back at the starting line, Steve, we're ready for the final race of the second round of funny car eliminations. A transplanted Midwesterner now living in Saugus, California, Tim Gross, the number 15 qualifier, will be going against a true Midwesterner, Johnny Pott, the number 3 qualifier, at a fine 6.01 seconds. Pott's the driver of Larry Kugel's car, called the Sting. Should be a good race. Tim Gross against Larry Kugel. Both cars completing their pre-race procedures, and it is Tim Gross pulling ahead at the start, and he drives away from Johnny Pott, and it is Tim Gross the winner. His elapsed time, 6.31 seconds. His speed, 230 miles an hour. Tim's car looks like it's starting to shake a little bit. It is. The right front wheel. Some severe vibration on that run must have broken something under the body of that car as Gross screeches the tires as he brings it to a halt. Johnny Pott pulls in right beside him. The emergency crew immediately raising the body and checking to see how Tim Gross is doing. Steve, what's it look like?
All right, Dave, Tim Gross a little rocky getting out of the car. As you mentioned, it shook very, very hard. His back is bothering him, but he's a lucky man in one way because the steering broke due to the shake, apparently, and he had a hard time even guiding the car in here. So when Timmy gets a chance to take his helmet off, we'll try to get a word with him if it's at all possible, because this is a very, very successful outing for him. You may remember a couple of years ago our Spring Nationals Diamond P telecast when Timmy was very fortunate to walk away from maybe the worst crash we have ever seen. But now that's all in the past, because Tim Gross is going into the semifinals where he's going to race Paul Smith. The car must have shook awfully hard, Tim, to break the steering and almost your back.
That was bad. It was definitely bad. I've been having a problem with my lower back for a couple of years now, and it's gotten worse in the last season with all this bad shake we've been going through. And really up until this race, we've been in pretty good shape, and this right lane evidently has given a lot of people problems. And
well, you will not have lane choice, and Paul Smith will probably put you back again in the right lane.
Well, it's possible. We'll get through her. I can make the adjustments.
All right, let's see.
Tim Gross has not only got to get his car ready, he physically has to be ready to match up against Paul Smith, while Frank Hawley will be going against John Force. Carved out of a Florida pine forest, Gainesville Raceway has hosted the Gator Nationals for 13 consecutive years. In the pit area, Tim Gross is hard at work repairing the damage to his race car to get ready for the semifinal round of Funny Car Eliminator. Gross repairing the steering on that right front wheel. Right now, let's check in with Steve.
David, I'm sitting here with two Shirley Muldowney's. To drag racing fans all over the world, this is the genuine article. Shirley Muldowney, two-time Top Fuel world champ. But to moviegoers, starting in the spring of next year, this lovely actress, Bonnie Bedelia, will be Shirley Muldowney. A feature motion picture starring Bonnie playing Shirley. Welcome to the Gator Nationals. And fans are already mistaking you for Shirley, even with the light hair.
A couple of times. I think fans who probably don't look too closely at the pictures.
It's going to be quite a challenge to play a woman who has accomplished so much.
Yes, I think it's always probably difficult to play someone who is a legend of any sort, but to have a living legend who you're playing, there's a little more added pressure.
Okay, what do you think? It's got to be tough looking at somebody who's going to portray you. Have we got a winner here?
Oh, definitely. I don't think it's going to be hard for Bonnie at all. I've watched her around the races, something that was very foreign to her before a couple weeks ago, and she's just fit right in. She's adapted, and she knows what's going on out there, so I think it's going to be easy for her.
Okay, thank you, and good luck in the Gator Nationals competition.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to it.
And we're looking forward to seeing the film, The Life Story of Shirley Muldowney, next year.
Thanks, Steve, and what a great story that should be. But the story here at the Gator Nationals is the semifinal round of Pro Stock Eliminator. Thus far, we've only been watching nitro-burning supercharged cars. Now we'll take a look at the ultimate factory hot rod, the Pro Stock. It'll be Roy Hill matched against Frank Iaconio in this semifinal round. It'll be an 82 Charger here in the near lane, driven by Hill against Iaconio and his Flying Chevrolet, the number 2 qualifier, at a 7.83 second elapsed time. Hill qualified number 8 at a 7.96, and remember, these cars are carbureted, running on gasoline. Some rules changes this year have picked up the pace considerably as we see Frank Iaconio with a big lead right off the starting line. And Frank extends that margin of victory as he crosses the finish line about 3 lengths ahead at a 7.90 second elapsed time. Frank Iaconio winning over Roy Hill. The remaining pair in the semifinal round, the white Camaro, is the car driven by the number 1 qualifier, Lee Shepard, for the team of Rare and Morrison from Arlington, Texas. The big number 1 on the window indicates this man, Lee Shepard, is not only the number 1 qualifier, but the reigning world champion. He'll be racing Pat Musey out of New Jersey, qualified number 3 at a 7.89. But that 7.77 second elapsed time by Shepard in qualifying established a new national record. He also ran over 177 miles an hour. The pair of Chevrolets blast off the starting line, and this is a close race. It's too close to call at this point. At the finish line, it's Lee Shepard by about a half a car length, 8.02 second elapsed time. His speed, 174 miles an hour. As we watch again, both cars come off the starting line side by side. At this point, it's tough to tell who's ahead. As they head on down the racetrack, it's even tougher. And only when they get to the finish and we stop the action, 0.03 of a second quicker, Lee Shepard over Pat Musey. In the finals of Pro Stock Eliminator, a pair of Chevrolets, Lee Shepard and Frank Iaconio. In addition to the professional action that we've been watching, several other categories of competition were contested at the Gator Nationals, known as sportsman racing. In Stock Eliminator, 34-year-old Joe Moore won his second major title, defeating Kenneth Horn. In Super Stock Eliminator, it was 42-year-old Joe Scott winning for the 4th time over Ron Baker. Super Gas saw a first-time winner, Jim Carlton, defeat Joanne Iarussi. Another first-time winner in Competition Eliminator, Steve Green defeating Paul McCure. In the final of Pro Comp Eliminator, the Alcohol Dragster of Don Woosley against the Alcohol Funny Car of Bob Gottschalk, the winner, Don Woosley. For the 3rd year in a row, the Pro Stock Motorcycle Final came down to Mike Keat and Terry Vance, and for the 2nd consecutive year, Terry Vance, the winner at the Gator Nationals. Diamond P Sports offers its congratulations to all the sportsman champions at the Gator Nationals. 7 great winners who have emerged from over 600 entries. Steve Evans has had a chance to catch up with one of the finalists in Pro Stock.
Dave, for the 2nd time in 2 national events this year, the finalists are Frank Iaconio and Lee Shepard. This is Frank, but there's no Lee. And I have a feeling the Rear and Morrison team are working on that car because tire shake has set in and it has really slowed down, giving you an advantage.
Yeah, Steve, first round they ran pretty good. I mean, they went a 7.86, which isn't too bad. It's a little off their 7.77, but second round they went a 8.20, I think, or an 8.
No, way off.
Yeah, I mean, it was way off.
And you've got consistency going for you, right? An 89, a 90, a 90?
Well, I guess, you know, it looks like my car likes the track, you know, and them and a couple other people have had a lot of trouble.
Before we get to that exciting final in Pro Stock Eliminator, stick around because coming up next, the semifinal rounds of Top Fuel Eliminator and Funny Car at the Gator Nationals. Back to racing at the Gator Nationals with Top Fuel Eliminator. And the huge crowd on hand has a sentimental favorite to cheer for here. It'll be Big Daddy Don Garlits, just down the road in Sefner, Florida. That's a suburb of Tampa, going against Portland, Oregon's Jim Bernard. Here we see Bernard doing a burnout. In slow motion, you can watch the tires grow and smoke as they get hot, literally burning the rubber to get the compound as hot as possible to provide as much traction as can be available for these 2,500 horsepower Chargers. For Garlits, we saw the round before. He ran a 5.72 second elapsed time. That's the low ET of eliminations thus far, and he thinks he's got it all figured out. Jim Bernard enjoying one of the great days of his long career. He races mostly in the Northwest. This season has decided to go on the national tour and is here in the semifinals in Florida against the all-time winner in Top Fuel Racing, Big Daddy Don Garlits. both drivers concentrating intently on the Christmas tree, each trying to gain a slight starting line advantage. And the advantage goes to Garlits. He smokes the tires, but so does Bernard. A close race, but Garlits pulls it out at the finish line, but he hurts an engine. So does Bernard. 5.94 seconds for Garlits, 234 miles an hour, off the pace just a bit. Watch the whole shot. Garlits leaving on Bernard. The tires smoking, losing traction. But as he progressed down course, he extended his lead, but he also hurt the engine. Steve?
For the fourth time in his career, Big Daddy Don Garlits from the state of Florida goes into the final round of the Gator Nationals. No one's ever done that before.
Well, we've been working hard. That's all I can say. We just do the best we can. The lane was hurt. The car moved around real bad.
And the engine is hurt a little bit now, you think?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Don.
Don Garlits not looking quite the happy man he was after round number 2. He's got some work cut out for him to go into the finals against one of these two racers. It will be either Shirley Muldowney with her son, John, serving as a crew member along with crew chief Ron Tobler, directing his mother back into her own tracks, trying to find that best spot of traction on that tricky starting line. Her competition will be Connie Kaleda. Kaleda, coming into the semifinals, has had a great series of races. He defeated the world champion the round before as Jeb Allen fell to Connie Kaleda, the owner of a flying service. Several airplanes he owns. He races on the weekends and is doing an outstanding job, having won as far back as 1964 a Winter Nationals title. So here in the semis, it is Shirley against Connie. The burnouts are finished and Kaleda off the starting line ahead of Muldowney, but something going wrong, and Shirley Muldowney wins the race. She also hurts an engine, but look at the time, 5.90 seconds. She's 0.04 of a second quicker than Don Garlits. She will have the lane choice going into the final round. As Shirley pulls off the track, all eyes of this crowd are on the starting line as you hear in the background the 2,500 horsepower nitro-burning engines of the funny cars as we get ready for the semi-final round of Funny Car Eliminator. Steve Evans has had a chance to catch up to Shirley.
Shirley Muldowney informed down here Dave, by the turnaround crew that she ran 5.90, and as you've already said, that gives her lane choice, and that could be quite a factor in this drag race as the track conditions are changing every 5 or 10 minutes. It was interesting to note that Don Garlits had lane choice and took the left lane. Shirley Muldowney had lane choice and took the right lane. Why?
Again, Ron Tobler's decision, but what happened to Big Daddy's combination?
Yeah, I wondered. He's very upset with his engine. He said they just missed the combination and burned it up pretty good.
Well, I thought I heard him say second round that he had to race one already. That's a little bit premature.
You got something to say about that, huh?
Yeah, I will say something about it in final round, I hope.
It's always a classic confrontation. When you and Garlits get together, there's no love lost in this relationship.
Yeah, but I don't hate him. I respect him, and he knows I respect him, but he just doesn't have enough respect for my guys. That's his problem.
All right, Shirley Muldowney, I'll tell you, this is for blood.
Steve, you talk about an intense competitor. That's Shirley Muldowney as she heads into the finals of the Gator Nationals against Don Garlits. Here is semifinal racing and funny car eliminator John Force will be in the near lane. The Chi-Town Hustler, number 2 qualifier Frank Hawley, certainly the class of the field thus far. He's been the only car in the 5s in eliminations. He's matched up against Fullerton, California's John Force. Who's going to win? Who knows? A very cautious staging by John Force, and there goes Hawley streaking off the starting line. Force trying to stay with him, but Hawley and the Chi-Town Hustler at the finish, 6.05, an incredible elapsed time as Frank Hawley moves into his first final round ever as the driver of the Chi-Town Hustler. Our final pair of cars in the semifinals of Funny Car, Paul Smith and the Entertainer, the fiberglass body being lowered down over the chassis as Tim Gross approaches the water, getting ready to heat up his tires in the burnout to see if he can make it into the finals against Frank Hawley. Side by side, Paul Smith and Tim Gross out of the burnout area as Steve's with Hawley.
Frank Hawley tells me he's not allowed to get out of the car. They'll fire him if he does. This is your first ever final round, and you got to love it, but especially for Austin Coyle, who's been running Chi-Town Hustlers for 17 years.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that we both deserve it. I mean, the car's been running good for a long time.
And you know, we like coming to these races. You people do nice TV coverage. You know, the event's organized well, and we like coming here. And it's nice to be in the final round.
Oh yeah, especially when you race to eat.
Yeah, well, he told me that if we won for sure tonight, we could go have a hamburger or something like that.
I'll go with you.
I'll join you too, Steve, but Frank's got one problem. He's got to beat one of these racers. Either Paul Smith or Tim Gross will be in the final against Frank Hawley for the championship. The driver's trying to gain that little bit of advantage that'll pay off so big at the finish line. They're side by side as they leave the Christmas tree, but it is something going wrong with Paul Smith and Tim Gross. After working so hard to get his car back into shape, records a 6.48 seconds, but at this point, he doesn't care about lane choice. He's in the finals. As he heads back into the pits, there's a lot of action going on over to Don Garlits' pit area. You saw the smoke coming out of the engine, indicating some problems. The crew hard at work, with Don himself working side by side with his crew members. And you wonder how intense the rivalry is? Take a look at the scoreboard on the side of Don Garlits' trailer. Steve's over in Shirley Muldowney's pit area. See what he can find out.
When it comes to you and Garlits, head on head, there's more than money and a title at stake.
There's a lot of ego involved with both of us. I like to beat him because it's, for some reason, people think that it's prestigious to beat Big Daddy, and there are times when he's not running really good and he deserves to be beat.
Rate Don Garlits as a driver, starting line driver.
Off and on. I've seen him exceptionally good, and then I've seen him where I couldn't believe. I thought he was really late. But, we're all guilty of that one time or another, but I would call him marginal.
Well, one thing's clear, Steve. This is more than just a race for a championship. Between Shirley Muldowney and Don Garlits, it is a race of personalities. We'll be back at the Gator Nationals with the professional finals in just a moment. I'm Dave McClelland along with Steve Evans, and we're joining a throng of spectators in the pit area watching the action at Frank Hawley's car. This is the Chi-Town Hustler, the team of Farconas, Coyle, and Minnick, with Frank Hawley, their new driver, and he is in the finals here at the Gator Nationals. He'll be racing against a 30-year-old competitor now living in Saugus, California, Tim Gross. Gross has had problems all during this event. He broke the steering on one round, fixed it, and came back and earned his way into the finals. But before we get to the funny cars and top fuel, here is the all-important and long-awaited match between Lee Shepard and Frank Iaconio for the Pro Stock Championship. You remember Frank Iaconio said he thought Shepard and the Rare and Morrison team were having some problems. He says his Camaro loves this racetrack. Let's see, because in just a few short seconds, we'll know who's the Gator Nationals champion. Both cars leaving side by side. It could be anybody's race at this point. At the finish line, it's Lee Shepard. Pulling it out by just a fender length. Lee Shepard at a 7.88 second elapsed time. As we watch again, there does not seem to be any advantage at the starting line. A great race between two outstanding drivers. At the finish line, watch closely. You see the move made by Lee Shepard. By 1/100th of a second, he defeats Frank Iaconio. Here's Steve.
Well, just when it appeared that the reigning world champion was in trouble, he comes back to pull it out of the fire. How about that? You paid him off for beating you at the Winter Nationals a short time back.
Yeah, we had to make some changes on the car. We weren't running too good today, and he's been running awful consistent, Steve. I just feel fortunate that we happened to do the right thing for the final.
What was the right thing?
We let the pressure down the tires a little.
That's all?
That's it.
Little things, huh?
Yeah, that's all that counts.
Steve, sometimes little things mean a lot. In this case, some $13,000 to Lee Shepard and his car owners, David Rare and Buddy Morrison. Little things can make the difference here, too, as a lot of work has gone on both of these cars to get them ready for this final attack on the quarter mile. Tim Gross in the near lane. That's the right lane. He doesn't particularly like it. Remember, that's where he's had his problems before. Frank Hawley has been dominating that left-hand lane, and the parachute comes out on Tim Gross's car. He loses as the vibration shakes the parachute out of the car, and another blistering 6.07 for Frank Hawley as the Chi-Town Hustler picks up nearly $20,000 and a Gator Nationals championship. Steve?
Coming out of the legendary Chi-Town Hustler of Farcona's Coil and Minnick, loved all over the country for its long, powerful burnouts, has now proven to be championship caliber as well. For Frank Hawley, his first ever national title. For the car owners, well, they were in a final once before, many years ago, but for them, their first NHRA Oscar as well. Tim Gross comes over, who worked so very, very hard to get his car ready. Tim may have even had a little bit of an edge back at the line, but the powerful Chi-Town did it. Something else, boy.
Thank you very much. It feels pretty good. Those guys all look pretty happy.
Yeah, I'll bet they are. A little shock here. Can you believe this has happened to you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you drive a car like this, it's bound to happen, right? I'm real happy for Tim, too. I mean, he works real hard. I'm glad to race him. I wish, of course, you know, we could have avenged our deal at Pomona. I wish Raymond had been around this long, but we'll get him down the road.
Well, the money went to where it was needed the most in this particular final.
Boy, I'll tell you, and it's about time.
Okay, a happy Frank Hawley, as you can see. Our congratulations to Austin Coyle and Pat Minnick and all the gang from Chicago, Illinois, the Chi-Town Hustler.
Steve, on the starting line, the tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. This is the showdown of giants. Don Garlits will be in the far lane against this lady, the only person ever to win a Top Fuel World Champion title twice. Shirley Muldowney coming up against the fan favorite, that man, Don Garlits, at the age of 50. He started this career back in the mid-1950s. He has been driving a Top Fuel dragster ever since. He's the best there ever has been at Top Fuel racing, and he's matched against one of the greatest racers of all time, Shirley Muldowney. Tremendous concentration by both drivers as they know what rides on this event and this one single run. They're off together, but it is Shirley Muldowney pulling ahead, and Shirley wins the Gator Nationals for the second year in a row. 5.86 seconds, 240 miles an hour, some slight damage to the engine, but look at this. At the starting line, Shirley Muldowney, her eyes wide open, concentrating on the start, trying to gain that slight advantage that will put her in the winner's circle. At this point, they're side by side. But at this point, you can see Shirley starting to extend the lead that will take her to her second consecutive Gator Nationals title and the defeat of Don Garlits.
One of my favorite moments down here, Dave, is when the happy crews arrive, especially after one of those tense, exciting, classic Top Fuel finals we've ever had. Shirley's son, John, her crew chief, Ron Muldowney, Francis Gray, and all the folks who helped Shirley put this together. She's some kind of race car driver.
Steve, she certainly proved that today. We'll be back with a final look at the Gator Nationals in just a moment. Our congratulations to the three professional champions, Shirley Muldowney, Frank Hawley, and Lee Shepard. Steve Evans, have you got any final thoughts?
David, I'm going to ask a not-so-independent observer, John Muldowney, if this wasn't the most exciting final round your mom, your team has ever been in.
It was definitely the most exciting for us. We've wanted to put the old man away since '75, and we finally got our chance, and he will never forget it.
Will this maybe help bury some of that animosity?
Well, he's definitely afraid of this car more than any car there is, and we just like to beat him, but this was the time and the place.
Okay, it was one of the best final rounds I've ever witnessed, and I've been around a long time, like you, Dave.
A lot of years, Steve. I hope you'll join us for our next Diamond P Sports presentation of the Cajun Nationals. I'm Dave McClellan saying so long for now. The 1982 Gator Nationals has been brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers. Reach for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that says Budweiser. For all you do, this Bud's for you. And by Motorcraft. Motorcraft offers a complete line of automotive parts to fight the enemies of your engine. Motorcraft for sure. And by Goodyear Eagle high-performance radials, the Racing Eagles Goodyear tamed for the street. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by trustworthy hardware stores, the Problem Solvers. Do-it-yourself hardware professionals supplying your needs with quality products and expert advice. Trustworthy hardware stores. And by Minwax. Minwax finishes have beautified wood indoors for years. Now Minwax goes outdoors. Get your home ready for weather and wear with exterior wood finish by Minwax. And by Fuji, imagination becomes reality on pure Fuji audio cassettes. Available in 4 superb tape formulations. Fuji, for all there is worth hearing and all there is yet to hear. Additional consideration provided for and a fee paid by...
I do home repairs with plastic wood. I fixed my chair, molded my baseboard, built holes in my wall. Plastic wood is so easy, even you guys can use it. I'm very handy thanks to 3-in-1 oil. It fights rust, lubricates, stops squeaks. 3-in-1 oil is so easy, even you guys can use it.
The executive producer of Diamond P Sports is Harvey Palish, produced and directed by John B. Mullen. Coverage of the 1982 National Hot Rod Association Gator Nationals is a Diamond P Sports presentation.